Rights Radio 101.1 FM, redefining broadcasting.
Hello and welcome to Media Lab once again. It was fun yesterday. Today we're back. It's so exciting to be back on the program. I'd like to say thank you so much for all our listeners out there who have given us the time and attention. Today on Media Lab, it won't be too different from yesterday's, except for the person who is in the studio with me. Quite frankly, I must tell you, this is somebody whose voice is quite regular, but quite pinchy. A very powerful voice that you would love to hear as well whenever she speaks. She's the lady on the Vendor's Corner. Very early in the morning, you listen to her very sharp voice, waking you up from sleep. Olive is in the studio with me on Media Lab. It's good to have you, Olive.
Good afternoon, Mr. Peter. I'm glad to be here.
Are you blushing?
Oh,
like they say, Nigerians don't blush. It doesn't appear that much. But it's good to have you on the program.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
We're going to have fun, don't worry. But let's again say that Media Lab is that kind of program that you get to hear from media practitioners. At the very beginning, you may not see as many as you want to hear from, but of course, as we progress, it will definitely get a lot more tidier, and more people will be featured on the program as well. But on Media Lab today, we'd like to say so many things have happened in the country between the last 1-2 weeks and today. Between just yesterday and today, we also discussed some very trending and topical issues on Vendor's Corner. And of course, later on, we looked at some very unusual stories on the X-ray. Now we're going to take a look at a broader perspective to some of the trending stories across Nigeria and beyond Nigeria as well. So let's start with some of the stories that we have. I don't want to start with an international story, but of course, as long as it has to do with issues that pertain to Nigerians and affect Nigerians as a whole, we believe it is very important that we look and discuss some of these. In the mornings, you heard about the president blasting governors over unpaid salaries, and we went on to tell you the story that President Buhari had expressed concerns over the growing complaints and agitations by workers in states over unpaid salaries and allowances, in spite of his administration's interventions. The various interventions which the 36 states had received from the federal government include bailout, Paris Club, refund, and budget support. But we won't be looking at that story anymore. We'll take a look at other developments much later. We also like to refresh your minds that this morning we also talked about foreign hospitals stealing kidneys. The FG, which is the federal government, had warned earlier on. We told you that the Federal Ministry of Health had said Nigerians traveling outside the country for medical attention should be very careful due to the rising cases of illegal organ harvesting by some hospitals. Those two stories we looked at on X-ray, but now it is time for the media men and women to make their own opinion known to Nigerians and what they think about the stories, how they were written, what perspective was the writer or editor coming from, why certain stories should not be showing on our daily newspapers as well. So we'll question some of these, but let's go straight up to our own topic for Media Lab this afternoon. The first story says parents withdraw kids from schools in Ondo. So the story reads, there was panic yesterday among parents of school children in Akure, Ondo State capital, as rumors spread that some pupils had died after they were given suspected deadly vaccine by unidentified soldiers. Many parents withdrew their children from schools before closing hours, but were resisted by the school's management, signed by the Director of Hospital Services, Dr. Wapada. Okay, so let's not take that part yet. Let's just look at that area. I mean, Nigeria is panicking when it comes to issues, first of all, with schools and kidnapping. We know that in the southwest it became quite rampant at some point, which of course led to the arrest of people such as what's his name again? Is it Evans?
Yeah, Evans.
And all of that. Not too far from that, we now started hearing about the monkeypox disease and how allegations were spreading that it was after a government intervention, which outrightly the federal minister of information came out to deny and also defend his ministry. But then these are some of the issues that are arising across Nigeria. Do you think that parents need to panic? Because when you hear vaccine, you now hear children, then you hear school. It looks as if it is a bigger game to battle.
I really understand their fear, the Nigerian thing. Ordinarily, I don't think there's any need for them to panic. This is also one of the reasons why the military or whoever is carrying out, vaccination on schools should at least inform the school authorities first, and then of course school authorities should first seek approval from parents, before you bring something like that to the schools.
You think the school authority authority was even in support? They were not in support.
That's what I'm saying. They are ordinarily supposed to inform the school authorities first, before coming for any vaccination and all that. And then I do not think the military has actually been carrying out vaccination before now. That is pretty why most, of the parents are concerned. This story did not even, the story of panic did not even start from Ondo State. It started off in one of the northern states, and then from there it spread to Anambra State. It was also in Abakaliki. I think that was some few days ago. Then to River State, and now Ondo State. And why it's still spreading is what a lot of people don't understand. Before now, the military has not really been carrying out vaccinations, and if at all they are going to, and now if the military didn't come out to debunk the vaccination issue, they said what they're actually doing is outreach. Even today on Headline Review, even discussed it, that they said over 1,000 people have received medical outreach from them. So I really do think that if there is any certain one, it's a very good thing that the Federal Ministry of Information came out to debunk the early allegation that federal government injected some people. The allegation, it is a very good thing that it came out to debunk it.
You want to step away from the mic a little bit? I think it's giving a very loud voice.
Okay,
right,
apologies about that.
Yeah.
Apologies about that. So now I think what we really need to do is more sensitization. A lot of people are wallowing in ignorance. I do not think there is any way one can, in any right-thinking organization, not to talk of a government, organization like the military, will come out to inject people with diseases and all that. So it's actually an allegation, but why the rumor continues to spread is what I don't understand, because even the military have come out to debunk this rumor. So I think the National Orientation Agency, of course, and the Information Department should really play a key role if it's something to because the truth is this: there is tension which needs to be doused. If it's for them to suspend any medical outreach or whatever it is they are carrying out, then let it just be so.
Good or bad story? You think this is a good story that should have been published?
No.
Why?
I think it shouldn't. The first one, okay, we can even pardon that, but for it spreading, as media practitioners, we know what has an element of truth and what does not, especially since the military and, of course, the federal government have come out initially to debunk the rumor. We as media practitioners should see it as a rumor, that should not be allowed to spread the more, because it's going from one state to the other. And I'm pretty concerned here because, a lot of families might even, as a result of fear that this is actually happening, because in fact, if you read some reports, it states that some people were shot, the military shot some people, which is not true, baseless and false. As a result of fear, some parents might even lose their children in the process of trying to, get them out from school.
Out of panic.
Yeah, as a result of panic, you understand? So I think this we should at least stop publishing stories on this, since we know, or since we have been made to understand that there is no basis for.
But would you blame a parent who outrightly hears something? Yeah, I mean, a parent would not want to think of the implications. They just want to take action and think later. Is that the responsibility of the government, the parents, or the school authority?
Well, as a mother, I will not blame the parents. The first thing here is there is a rumor which is being fueled, by reports online, and then the media is also now, publishing the reports. Now, government, and of course, government did come out to, speak against it when it has to do with accusing the federal government of injecting some people with, monkeypox. They did come out to condemn it. The military have also come out to condemn it now. But because it's spreading to other states, and then there is one thing, as a parent, you should understand something. Parents are very emotional people. When you hear this is what is happening, the first reaction you normally is, let my child be safe. I don't understand, especially because this is Nigeria, where there is so much mistrust and and all that. The first thing would just be, but then schools again should play a very important role here. That's why I mentioned that if anyone is carrying out a medical outreach to school, first they should inform the school authorities, then they in turn inform the parents. I mean, why should a school even allow that to happen just like that? You don't just come into a place. Someone can walk into an organization and say, I want to start this, without prior information. So it is not right.
Isn't it quite an unusual kind of development when you hear that the military is doing something without announcing? Because usually when they have a shooting range, when they announce it. I mean, we are quite aware of that.
Yeah.
So how come this is this kind of information? What is the preventive measure in this? Isn't it better for organizations, formations, government agencies to announce some of these things before they run out of control?
Yeah, when it comes to medical outreach, there should be adequate information. There should even be a pre-conference briefing pre-briefing, of course, before you commence, things like this, so that people are aware that, okay, this is what the military intends to do, medical outreach.
More like a press conference.
It could be to community. So now the media will disseminate the information to, of course, the schools, and everybody will be aware that, okay, this is what the Nigerian military. Of course, there is nothing wrong with the move itself, because it should be part of their social corporate responsibility, to the society. There is nothing wrong with it, but then again, it's just the manner in which the whole thing, and then the fact that there's been so much tension, and mistrust, let me put it like that, mistrust. So it's really not good. And then if it's going to be something like vaccination, I don't think the military should get engaged in something like that. You can there are lots of NGOs.
Why shouldn't they? I mean, you talked about,
personally,
you mentioned corporate social responsibility.
When it comes to vaccination, vaccination should be something healthcare.
They have doctors.
Of course, they have doctors, but it should be something you can liaise with the Department of.
The same military has built certain bridges in the northeast. No media organization, not even you, has said, why did you build those roads? We have the.
When it comes to vaccination, the best thing, of course, I mean, of course, you do have all those things, but when it has to do,
needs to be there. Is that
when
what
it has to when it has to do with the civilian populace, the best thing to do is get engaged with civilian, the healthcare the authorized body. You can do it in partnership with the military.
Are they not
no,
authorized?
when it comes to vaccination, no, it shouldn't be done that way. We all know primary healthcare sectors take charge of vaccination in the country all over. So if you even want to do something like that, you get them engaged, partner with them. I mean, there is nothing wrong with partnering with them. When it has to do with vaccination, the first thing is to get them involved. Then let people assess it through their primary healthcare providers. And then, if at all they are also going to reach out to the grassroots, they communicate to the grassroots. They know how they do it. When they announce it every time when they want to give polio and all that.
Isn't it a normal thing that they may have partnered? I mean, we are both not sure.
Then if they did, there is a problem
Except
somewhere.
of course
Communication.
You're saying that the face of that project should not be the military. It should be the partners.
Of course, it should be of course, because of the mistrust that I mentioned earlier. They shouldn't just be the military coming to do it themselves. They should just partner and then have the healthcare providers, the civilian healthcare providers, do it themselves. People in uniform should not be seen giving vaccination. We all know that when they were giving polio vaccination, you see them wear the normal polio. Sometimes they even recruit people to help, but they.
What
put
if
them
it's,
through.
what in terms, because when you say that, we need to also realize that there are times of emergencies. When there are emergencies, are there going to be civilian persons who will be ready to go and give those vaccinations, especially
In restive areas,
like
that
in the
might not be
Northeast?
possible. But remember, there are.
So why is it not possible in a normal climate or situation?
No. Even in the restive areas, if there is need for them to give vaccination, I want to believe that there is always, they share the information. Government gets involved. I mean, the military should not even wake up and say, I'm going to Bama camp to give vaccination. Government should get involved, and there should be adequate information. You understand? Because, I mean, when you don't inform people and you carry out something, if something happens as a result of panic, lives could be lost. Someone can just come out and say, there is, remember the issue of Chibok girls. The impression, or maybe the story at the time, was that the suspected Boko Haram members came in military uniform. Because of all these things, there is need for one to really be careful. For any move you are making, get government involved, get the people that, the stakeholders, get them involved.
All right, so parents have withdrawn kids from schools in Ondo. That's the report that we've gotten from one of the latest and trending topics. There has been panic yesterday among parents of school children in Akure, Ondo State capital, as rumors spread that some pupils had died after they were given suspected deadly vaccines by unidentified soldiers. But obviously, from what Olive is saying, there have also been reports that the government side has said this should not be taken seriously, as there shouldn't be any reason for panic. So please, as much as possible, let's try not to spread rumors. This is Media Lab. If you're just joining us, this is where we discuss and dissect some of the topical issues, but from the media point of view. So we don't have just regular persons. It has to be a media person. And that's why you can hear questions about whether it's a good story or a bad story. And obviously, this, according to Olive, is clearly a bad story and shouldn't have been published. So we don't need to aggravate some of the tensions in Nigeria. We'll take a very quick break on Media Lab. When we come back, another story pressuring us regarding the Senate panel to drop $25 billion contracts probe. Stay with Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We'll be back.
Welcome, my dear friends.
Human Rights Radio. Your 100% effort is not good enough. Give me 101.1 effort.
Human Rights Station. Anya wagi nkewa ọbụla ma ọlị Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, onye mmom, Niger Delta. Nke awụ redio unu gbaa gburugburu. 101.1 FM Abuja. Human Rights Radio. 101.1 FM Abuja. Tinye radio gị na Human Rights Radio Station Abuja. 101.1 FM. Olu na-ekwuchitere anyị Human Rights Radio Station Abuja 101.1 FM.
This is Human Rights Radio 101.1. Redefining broadcasting.
As the fourth estate of the realm, the media stands as the watchman of the nation. On Media Lab, we dissect the news items of the day through the men and women that bring the news to you to give you the full story. Media Lab, airing exclusively on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM, redefining broadcasting.
Human Rights Radio.
Welcome back. It's Media Lab on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. It's your amazing program. It starts from 1 o'clock all through till 2 o'clock on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And today, being a Wednesday, we'd like to continue from where we stopped. We started off by taking a look at the story in Ondo State, where parents were said to have withdrawn their kids from school due to some sort of rumors. But we're moving straight up to the Senate, where pressure has been on the Senate panel to drop $25 billion contracts probe. The Nigerian Senate Ad Hoc Committee probing the $25 billion transactions by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) is under pressure to drop the inquiry. The Nation newspaper has learnt some prominent citizens have been asking Committee Chairman Adiyu Wamako to either stay action on the probe or work towards a soft landing investigation and report. That's the latest development from what we've read from the Nation newspaper. This story is quite interesting. This is something that we've been trying to dissect even on X-ray earlier last week, all through, and then early this week. Do you see this any different from any fight against corruption? Because we've seen that over time and again, committee chairman complaining, persons tasked with the responsibility of handling issues across board complaining about interferences and all of that. What do you think about this?
Well, first on this particular issue, I'm kind of concerned because just last week the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources came out to say that he was being misquoted. You know, the impression last week was that there is no fraud anywhere. So now, what is the committee investigating, and why will anyone even try to put them under pressure to, you know, leave out carrying out the investigation? Because this calls for concern. Who is lying and who is saying the truth? If there is an allegation of fraud, or if there is a perceived fraud, why should they not be allowed to carry out their investigation and of course submit their reports, which is the due process, which is the right thing to do? Why are they being put under pressure? Is this just another case of alleged?
Let me ask you a question. If you were involved in this kind of situation, or let's say even at work, would you not want to put pressure for the case to be dropped? Isn't it a normal human, natural thing about a human?
If you did nothing wrong, if you are so sure that there is just a question of contrast being awarded, because the NNPC came out last week to say we followed due process. Kachuku's input was, you know, taken as regard this and that. So if they follow due process and there's nothing to hide, why the pressure? Why not allow? But
nobody said it is the guys from the NNPC that are putting the pressure.
Exactly,
nobody
that's
knows
what
where
I'm
the
saying.
pressure
So
is coming
who
from.
is putting the pressure on them not to carry out investigation? Since there is no fraud, I mean, the issue now, or maybe the feeling amongst people now, or maybe the impression that has been given is that there is no fraud anywhere. There is no issue anywhere. The Minister of State for Petroleum consent, you know, was sought, and then his input was taken. So why the pressure? If there is nothing, no wrong has been done, so why the fear? Why the pressure?
I think it's just a Nigerian thing, especially when there are investigations.
There shouldn't be. Because if you say you did nothing wrong, why are you, or if you said you did nothing wrong, why is someone scared of, you know, you being investigated? Because if it's not you who is scared or putting pressure, why? I don't really understand.
Yesterday on Media Lab, we took a look at the situation in Plateau State, and afterwards we took a look at other developments. But then the Senate issue is still burning. And then, do you think that eventually we're going to get good news?
Come again?
You think we're going to get good news at the end of this investigation if it continues?
I think the first thing is to allow for the committee carrying out the investigation to be independent. Just let them do the right thing. Of course, if there is no intrusion, if there is no pushing from someone, you know, that they may be scared of. If there is no pushing, of course, we would expect a good job from them.
Okay, so there you have it. Let's move on to other developments. Yesterday we spoke about the Plateau killings, but again, latest information reaching us from the Vanguard newspaper clearly states that the Plateau State killings have been on the table, and it's been a very big problem for many other governors. Governor Bindo has offered to broker peace between Fulani and farmers. That's what the report says. So the Adamawa State Governor, Muhammadu Bindo, has offered to broker peace between Fulani herdsmen and farmers in Plateau State towards halting the midnight attacks on rural communities in Miango. A news report also stated that rural communities in Bassa local government area of Plateau State had come under heavy attacks that claimed several lives in the last 3 weeks. And among villages hit were Incha, Taibe, and Indezovorom, where 26, 6, and 29 persons were confirmed killed. So again, we're seeing the issue of security being a big problem, but we won't look at that for now. This is just an update with interest coming from other stakeholders, which is a good thing. That's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good story. And on the issue of herdsmen attack, like I said yesterday, I think there is really need for some people, or if arrests are made, if the perpetrators are being brought to book, or if one person can even be used, to set an example, trust me, the issue of clash between herdsmen and farmers will stop automatically. But when we allow things to continue to go the way it is, things happen and we say, let investigation be carried out, and and all that, and at the end, no arrest is made, no trial is made, things like this will continue to happen. I really do think there is need for the security to step up their game, especially in regard to this. It has been it did not start with this administration. Funnily, it's something that has been reoccurring, from time to time. So I really do think that security should, one, step up security. Secondly, carry out investigation. Make arrest. If we continue to let things go the way it is, trust me, we won't be seeing any change anytime to come.
In other words, rebuild or regain the trust of the people, because many people do not trust situations when it comes to matters pertaining to security. Nigeria's oil export rises by 150,000 barrels per day. The export of crude oil from Nigeria is said to have increased by 150,000 barrels per day following the completion of the Nembe Creek trunk line maintenance. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a very good thing. But then again, we should not, as a result of this, think that everything is still okay. There is still need for the country to diversify. There is, we can run a self-sufficient economy if we look at, our options, diversify to tourism, education sector, and a whole lot of other sectors. Agriculture, I think there is need for the country to diversify, oil or no oil. We shouldn't even be discussing oil.
Don't you think we're doing that already?
There is need for more effort. We are talking of exporting yams. We are talking of rice and all that. And then you also, because even yesterday we carried out a check on some markets and all that, and there is this. There is for the for the people we spoke with, there is this impression that because of the export of yam and all that, that the prices of these goods and commodities are kind of going up. So I think we really need to be serious, invest more in agriculture, so that at least we can produce enough and produce more. Even though we export, it will not affect what we have locally. We still have enough to eat and and all that.
You do know that as we speak, there are people who generally do not even know about this news because they've already gone into the farms. They're in the bushes trying to farm and make some living and diversify. But again, the question is, this is bad news for some people. This is good news for some people. There are a lot of people who probably, naturally will gain from this. And I'm talking about some corporate organizations. I'm talking about those involved in the macroeconomic terms of transactions across the African continent and all of that.
So who stands to lose?
No, but the question again is, how does it trickle down to the ordinary man on the street? You don't need to answer that. Let's move on to another very interesting and economic question and developments as well. Inflation rate drops, food prices up. I mean, you just talked about the sampling of opinions about food prices in the markets just yesterday. Our roving correspondents went round to get information. What was the report like?
There is this even after the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics came out to say that the country is out of recession, there has always been this constant complaint from people that in spite of more money being in circulation and all that, the prices of things have continued to be up. And then sometimes too, there is this feeling that, you know, once things go up in Nigeria, it's very difficult to get it to come down. Even when dollar, maybe they are selling a particular thing at an amount because of exchange rate. Even when the exchange comes down, it still remains like that. So I really do think there is need to also check the causes of some of all these things, because I'm not sure prices of things should still remain high as it is as of today.
All right, so you can be a part of this discussion by calling us up on 081 89 99 1011. The number again is 081 89 99 1011. Make your contributions on any of our topics. This is Media Lab, and this is where we dissect some of the topical issues from the media angle and point of view. But of course, we cannot let you be on the one side, forgetting how important it is to have your opinion on the program.
Lying mode.
Hello.
Hello.
Please put off your radio set.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you on the program. Kindly put off your radio set completely.
All right, my name is Line.
All right, you're welcome. This happens in the afternoon quite often. Feel free to call us back on 081 89 99 1011. We've been trying to take a look at some of the topical issues, and some of them include the inflation rate dropping, food prices rising up, and just before that, we're taking a look at Nigeria's oil export rising by 150,000 barrels per day. Okay, I used to hear this happen. I thought it was just on other people's programs. Hello? Please pick up your radio set.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to Human Rights Radio.
Yes, my name is Idris.
Idris, are you driving?
Yes.
You need to park and speak to us, please.
Oh, I'll do that before calling back.
All right, please. Please, we don't allow people drive and call the lines when we have a program. It's important that you park in a very safe position before you call and contribute on the program. We've taken a look at the inflation rate dropping, food prices rising up, and then Nigeria's oil export rising to 150,000 barrels per day. Olive says it's good news. And then we also took a look at other developments. Pressure on the Nigerian Senate panel to drop $25 billion contract probe. Is that a possibility? And the first story we took a look at is that parents have withdrawn kids from schools in Ondo State. But Olive, let's also look at some of the responsibilities that the media owe the people. I mean, in some of the stories, you clearly stated that there's no reason why certain stories should be published. The very good example you gave was the parents withdrawing kids from schools in Ondo State. I mean, the media has a role.
Yeah.
Have we been able to play our role effectively in some of these cases?
Yeah, I would say yes and then no. I think one of the challenges the media encounter in this regard now is the advent of social media. A lot of all these things do not even start from the traditional media houses. Sometimes it's people reporting what is going on online and all that. And maybe for some traditional or for some mainstream media houses, when they see all those reports online, they want to also drive traffic by putting it up in their websites and all that. So the media has really been owing up to its responsibility.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Media Lab.
Okay. I My name is Monday.
You're welcome,
My
Monday.
name is from Abuja.
All right, go ahead.
And what I want to say is, I want to talk about the money rising and the inflation. I think I said that the inflation rate is at the top, and this is the cost. You know, there is no sincerity in this government, because they will come and pay without looking or without looking how to it. They just want to take their own side to the truth, to the eyes of Nigerians. Because I didn't say they are going public to buy this and to see how people are poor to buy. So not come and say that inflation that this recession is over. They are just saying it so that people will hear them. People will say they are trying. They are not trying anything. They are not confident. Let them go market, let them go village and see what people are suffering. That's my mistake.
Well, thank you for your contribution. I mean, he clearly is given a marked responsibility to those in charge. Again, you know, I have regularly asked the question, how does it trickle down to the common man? And he clearly mentions that, you know. But now, looking at what he has said, do you think that some of these figures are not for real?
No, I won't say that. Sincerely, I won't.
Because a lot of people are losing confidence in some of these figures. I mean, encourage them. Encourage them. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Media Lab.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
My name is Emeka. I go to market.
Go ahead, Emeka.
So we are saying that things are normal now. The price of things are down. How much? Can you tell me how much is dollar? Let's say 3 years ago. And now, how will things come down? Dollar is 300 and something naira in Nigeria for $1. We those that bought something from that time, how will they sell it if it will be higher in things? Okay, when this government enter government, fuel was at 7 naira. Now they put it at 145. Remove 2 naira. Say they remove money. How will things touch the ordinary masses? It will not happen unless if this government is sincere. Even you people that is media, if you are sincere, telling things exactly as it is, things will change. But when you are covering government, things will not change. That is my take. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Well, we'd like to assure you that we try as much as possible not to cover anyone. We give you on this platform exactly how it is and how we see it. We try to avoid any form of how do I put it now? You know, covering of realities on ground. But please feel free to call us up and make your contributions known. We've been taking a look at quite a number of topics on ground on Media Lab. Let's take a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the final part of this program. We'll take a few more calls, and then we'll say bye-bye. Stay with Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We'll be back.
The idea of human rights is that each one of us, no matter who we are or where we are born, is entitled to the same basic rights and freedoms. Human rights are not privileges, and they cannot be granted or revoked. They are inalienable and universal. That may sound straightforward enough, but it gets incredibly complicated as soon as anyone tries to put the idea into practice. What exactly are the basic human rights? Who gets to pick them? Who enforces them, and how? The history behind the concept of human rights is a long one. Throughout the centuries and across societies, religions, and cultures, we have struggled with defining notions of rightfulness, justice, and rights. But one of the most modern affirmations of universal human rights emerged from the ruins of World War II with the creation of the United Nations. The treaty that established the UN gives as one of its purposes to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights. And with the same spirit, in 1948, the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document, written by an international committee chaired by Eleanor Roosevelt, lays the basis for modern international human rights law. The Declaration is based on the principle that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. It lists 30 articles recognizing, among other things, the principle of non-discrimination and the right to life and liberty. It refers to negative freedoms, like the freedom from torture or slavery, as well as positive freedoms, such as the freedom of movement and residence. It encompasses basic civil and political rights, such as freedom of expression, religion, or peaceful assembly, as well as social, economic, and cultural rights, such as the right to education and the right to freely choose one's occupation and be paid and treated fairly. The Declaration takes no sides as to which rights are more important, insisting on their universality, indivisibility, and interdependence. And in the past decades, international human rights law has grown, deepening and expanding our understanding of what human rights are and how to better protect them. So if these principles are so well developed, then why are human rights abused and ignored time and time again all over the world? The problem, in general, is that it is not at all easy to universally enforce these rights or to punish transgressors. The UDHR itself, despite being highly authoritative and respected, is a declaration, not a hard law. So when individual countries violate it, the mechanisms to address those violations are weak. For example, the main bodies within the UN in charge of protecting human rights mostly monitor and investigate violations, but they cannot force states to, say, change a policy or compensate a victim. That's why some critics say it's naive to consider human rights a given in a world where state interests wield so much power. Critics also question the universality of human rights and emphasize that their development has been heavily guided by a small number of mostly Western nations to the detriment of inclusiveness. The result? A general bias in favor of civil political liberties over socio-political rights and of individual over collective or groups' rights. Others defend universal human rights laws and point at the positive role they have on setting international standards and helping activists in their campaigns. They also point out that not all international human rights instruments are powerless. For example, the European Convention on Human Rights establishes a court where the 47 member countries and their citizens can bring cases. The court issues binding decisions that each member state must comply with. Human rights law is constantly evolving, as are our views and definitions of what the basic human rights should be. For example, how basic or important is the right to democracy or to development? And as our lives are increasingly digital, should there be a right to access the internet? A right to digital privacy? What do you think?
Human Rights Radio.
Welcome back from the break, and thank you so much for staying tuned into Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We've been talking about quite a number of heated topics on Media Lab. First, we started with parents withdrawing kids from schools in Ondo following a rumor that was later addressed, especially with the intervention of the school authorities preventing parents from taking their wards or children away from those schools. And then we moved on to another topic and talked about the pressure on the Nigerian Senate panel to drop the $25 billion contracts probe. And then we moved on to the Nigerian oil export having risen, according to reports, by 150,000 barrels per day. Then the inflation rate dropping and food prices rising up. The few calls that were clear enough for us to communicate with had indicated that things are really, really hard in the markets, and we also confirmed from the reports that our roving correspondents had taken from samples across some parts of Abuja yesterday. I mean, we also talked about the issue in Jos Plateau State, and now we are also seeing a very good move by herdsmen and farmers signing a peace pact in Niger. Now, herdsmen and farmers in Mashegu local government area of Niger have signed a peace agreement to stop clashes among them. Alhaji Abdullahi Babayo, the Director General of Nomadic Affairs Agency in the state, disclosed this in a statement issued to the news agency of Nigeria in Minna on Wednesday. Babayo also said that the aim of the meeting was to reconcile communities that were affected by farmers' herdsmen crisis in the area. He also said that the meeting was attended by Alhaji Bala Saidu, the chairman, Mashegu local government area, Alhaji Ardo Adamu, chairman, Miete Allah Cattle Breeders Association in Niger, Fulani herdsmen, farmers, district heads, and community leaders from the area. According to him, the meeting was to promote peace among farmers and herdsmen and appeal to herdsmen to desist from grazing on farmlands to avoid clashes. We'll take another phone call and then I'll let you, react to that story.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please put off your radio set. Fine, thank you. Put off your radio set kindly, please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I want to speak about this herdsmen issue, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because that's how Boko Haram started. Gradually, they didn't take action on it. You know, these people have been doing this in just side. Not there. I want government to take action quickly before the train onto another issue. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so you can see such reactions already. But with this new development in the Niger state, you think it's something?
It's very commendable. As a matter of fact, I think the country stands to gain more by if farmers and of course herdsmen will work harmoniously, because the truth is, in the country here, we actually export meat to a lot of other West African countries. So these are things that will help even in growing our economy, as we even talk of diversification, agriculture, and of course by means of exports of meat and all that, we stand to gain more if both parties will work harmoniously.
So I think again it's an opportunity for other states to follow suit. If we have more of peace signings,
I think this will have more to do with the herdsmen themselves and of course the farmers coming together to reach an agreement, not just the states. You understand? Making a commitment and of course working towards that, not just the states. You can't force two people to live in peace if two of them keep disagreeing or chooses not to.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're welcome to Media Lab.
Yes, you are calling from Prince and Princess.
Please go ahead, are you back?
I hear the program that some people are doing. I'm just hearing the program, but lately I see people are talking about this Fulani thing in Jos.
It's part of that's really noisy. I think we have.
And you see, another thing, we keep saying it every day. There is really need to separate the actions of one group of people from, because people call the first thing they say is Fulani herdsmen.
Exactly.
I mean, it's very wrong.
We don't preach any. We don't ascribe any of these to certain communities. We try as much as possible. If you want to say herdsmen, it is herdsmen.
Farmers.
So we don't promote whether it's Fulani herdsmen or what, because you probably would not be sure of what you're saying at the moment. But any final comments from you before we leave the studio?
Because the program actually it's for media people, and I think for me my final comment will be on that too. As men of the fourth estate of the realm, our duty is to communicate and of course build peace through our writing and not to hit up the polity. And I really do think we should be mindful of that when we write. There are stories that really don't need to make headlines. We should try as much as possible to avoid them.
Well, thank you so much, Olive Onwoke, for being part of Onokwaye. Yeah. So we need to add that. Women these days have to add their father's name before the husband's
Not
name.
necessarily.
Yeah,
It
well,
just
but,
depends.
but you just emphasized it.
Onokwa is my husband's name. You can't take that away from
Yeah,
my
okay,
name. You
so
can
why
say
don't you
Olive
just take out
Onokwai and
the
not
second
Olive
one?
Oke Onokwai.
Anyway, but remember, we will not take out the name Media Lab on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We'll have a great time with you tomorrow, same time. The last edition of Media Lab comes up tomorrow for the week, and then we'll move on to other programs. Have a great time. My name is Peter, and see you soon.